Today, I want to talk to you about the mystery of the gap. The mystery of the gap. Actually, I wrote about it in Quantum Healing, so if you want to pick up Quantum Healing, there is a very detailed explanation of the mystery of the gap. So many years ago, I met my dear friend Amit Goswami, who's a physicist, actually a quantum physicist. He used to be at the University of Oregon, and he and I were speaking when he used the word discontinuity. He said that the world is a discontinuity. So that means that the world, at a fundamental level, everything is going on and off. So the word for this is discontinuity. On, off, on, off, on, off. When you see a movie, it looks like a continuity, right? Everything is continuous. But if it's an old-fashioned movie, where somebody's using a film tape, then if the frames are moved 28 frames per second, your eyes cannot catch the gap between the frames. So you experience a continuity. Even today, with the digital technology, whatever digital technology is being used, as you're watching me on your screen right now on your iPhone, there are electrons that are going on and off, and there is discontinuity. The image that you see in your consciousness and my speech seems continuous, but that's the same thing. The photons that enter your eyes, or the electrons on the screen, are going on and off. When the image moves from this side to this side, as I'm doing right now, no image actually moves. Photons and electrons in certain patterns go on and off in a certain sequence, and the movement is an illusion. Could this be at all levels? And the answer seems to be yes. The universe, if you understand the universe arising from a quantum field, then those particles are coming on and off all the time. They're not moving in this direction or that direction, but the sequential pattern that ultimately results is objects that seem to be moving, some not moving, and the relationship of these objects to each other creates the experience of space, but also the experience of time. So once, long ago, Einstein said, before my theory of relativity, people thought if you take all the objects away from space, what would be left is space. And then he corrected. He said, not what would be left is inconceivable, because in order to experience space, you need the objects in space. In order to experience time, you need the movement of these objects in space in relationship to each other. If you take away all the objects, then even space disappears and time disappears, and what you enter is a dimensionless reality which you can't conceive of, but yet it's your source. So like that, our thoughts go on and off. Where do they go on and off? Well, you can say in cognitive space. And what is that cognitive space? Well, it's the space where we experience our thoughts, but where is it? You can't find it in space-time. So cognitive space, our thoughts occur in time, but they don't occupy any space. But our perceptions are different. When you look at an object, that's a space-time event in your consciousness. And so now we've introduced the element of time. Okay, sensations, feelings, perceptions, these are space-time events. Where? in the same space. And where is that space? Well, it has no location. It, in fact, manifests as space-time, energy, information, and matter. So the space between thoughts is the mystery of the gap. That's what we're calling it. But it's also the space between breath, the space between intention, the space between objects, the space between movement, the space between you and me, and this space actually is the entry to our source. These days, a lot of people use source field, the source field. So my body is a continuum of space-time events in the source field. I can call that personal domain of that source field my soul if I want to. And if I go beyond that, then there's a universal source field, but it doesn't extend in space-time because it is the source of space-time. It is dimensionless. So if we understand this, this is the gap between thoughts and every other event in both space and time. In fact, the events in space-time are the creation of space-time. The purpose of meditation is to slip into the gap. The purpose of meditation is to go into the stillness which is between space-time events. And so what's there? What's there in that gap? Only possibilities. What's there in the gap? Only correlation, synchronicity. What's there in the gap? Uncertainty to me, but not to the gap. The gap is churning out the universe with certain probabilities, and all these atoms that seem to be moving randomly are actually creating a pattern that appears as the universe to you, me, including our own body. So there are probabilities, there are possibilities, there is uncertainty, there is creativity, there is correlation, and there's also, because the gap is between thoughts, there is peace and contentment and joy and infinite compassion, infinite empathy, the emergence of goodness, truth, the evolutionary impulse of the universe. The gap, therefore, is our entry to the cosmic mind, to cosmic consciousness. The gap is the vortex where we connect with our source. And of course, our source is the source of all that is. Learn to be still, and that is why all the great traditions say, be still and know that I am God. Or as Rumi says, silence is God's language, everything else is poor translation. As I said, my book, Quantum Healing, goes into great detail on both the science and the philosophy of the gap. Thank you.